a draw against York, a draw against Fylde, was it enough?
I'm always a glass half full kind of guy. My mentality is it's 2 more points towards the challenge, and the challenge, yes, of course, is trying to win every game of football, but you know, not even the best can do that. I just noticed there's one team just won 28 games on the bounce, which is a world record, wasn't it? In come on, I've got you now, haven't I? Yeah. Al Hilal, I think it is. Just won a 28th game on the bounce, which is it's phenomenal. And when I was working for the BBC just before I arrived back in football at Kidderminster, Stockport County had won 12 on the bounce, and to win 13 was a record in England, you know. And I watched that game very closely and how they didn't apply themselves in the same manner which they had done in the previous 12 and consequently lost the game. You've always got respect for the opposition, you've always got respect for the opposition's manager, and I've done that in the last 2 games, but I still believe that you pay them too much respect, it freezes your players to a certain extent. I think the focus that I've been keeping both eyes firmly on is on our team and how we perform. On Tuesday night I was a little bit disappointed in the officiating of the affair, and I'm not blaming him for our bad performance. I'm just saying it was too stop-start, and when you're at home and the Kidderminster crowd are here and they've turned up and you're trying to not just entertain but you're trying to get a tempo going, you're trying to set some kind of rhythm into the game, and it was the officiating, it was, you know, both managers' points of view, it was officiating that was the thing that stopped the tempo of the game. They have a responsibility to keep the flow of the game going, and hopefully if we get somebody that keeps the game flowing on Saturday, then we've a chance of turning draws into wins. But at the same time, you know, we're coming up against a very good team, and no disrespect to York or Fylde, you know, a team that's been at the right end of the division all season and playing with a lot of confidence. But to cut a long response short, I think we did enough in the second half of the Fylde game in particular to win that game. But everybody's got a right to shut shop, and that's exactly what Fylde did. They could have done us on the counter attack, but that's the same in most games. So I'm quite pleased the fact that we've nudged a couple of points out of the last 2 games, but I would have been delighted with 4 points and absolutely ecstatic with 6, of course.
The reason I'm standing here is because I've never won the pools. Because if I go back over your last few games, if I'm being honest, I didn't really fancy going to Oldham. I didn't really fancy going to Solihull, if I was being entirely honest. So you go there and you win both those. Here, I fancied you against York and Fylde, and it just goes to prove, you know, you go to Bromley or a good side, you could do it again there, I suppose.
Well, there's no rhyme or reason at times, you know, home or away. Does that count for any advantage these days? Obviously, the AstroTurf that Bromley have got has a little bit of an advantage, or more of an advantage at home, because they're used to playing on it. We've got a wonderful facility at Droitwich that has been loaned to us on a weekly basis, so we're well versed at how the bounce of the ball goes, as it were, or whatever. And we've played on AstroTurf many times. You know, it's now 4G, so 4 generations of AstroTurf. From back in the day when Oldham Athletic was the first one, that was the old-fashioned AstroTurf with no grass on it whatsoever. So we'll be prepared for it, is what I'm trying to say to you. We'll be prepared for what comes out of their change room. We'll be prepared for the way they play and the mentality of Bromley, and the fact that they are at the right end of the division, and they're fighting on a promotion front and a cup front, as it were, and we're scrapping around for survival at the bottom. We've both got our causes. One's as equally as important as the other, as far as I'm concerned. Yes, I would love to be at the top end of the division, but what we inherited, unfortunately, was bottom. We're now fourth bottom by people's reckoning. You know, people couldn't wait to tell me that after Tuesday night, because of the fact that we got a point and we jumped up a couple of places, you know. But why they wanted to tell me that was basically because the league table does look healthier. We do look like we've got a chance now. But you never take that for granted. You only got a chance if you bring a game to the table week in and week out, and that's what we need to do on Saturday against Bromley. But at the same time, the reason why we jumped up 2 places with a point was the foundations that we've put in place. You know, them first 4 games, in particular, winning 4 out of 4, and also bringing in the majority of the games. We've brought a discipline to the party. We've brought basics to the party, and if you've got good basics, you've got a chance of winning any game of football.
Do you think that's what made the difference, if you like? You put the basics in place and they've stuck to them. Is that?
I think so. I think we put foundations in place in the first week. We had a lot to work with. We knew that because of the scores that had gone in the previous 28 games. If you look at them in depth, which I've said many times, but also the 0-0 draw in the Accrington game in the cup, with a penalty save in the 93rd minute, and then winning it on penalty. So we knew we had something in that changing room.
Altrincham, you mean, rather than
Altrincham, sorry.
Yeah.
And we knew we had spirit. We knew we had resolve. We knew we had fight. We knew we had all of them things that you actually, in sports science terms, you can't measure. You just know when you've got it, that spirit, like you're going to change room. You've got to try and nurture that spirit. But confidence nurtures spirit, and winning games of football obviously breeds confidence. So the basics that we're talking about are what every changing room is looking for, but I'm talking about the basics of learning how to win a game of football again, going playing the right way instead of playing sometimes in a false way. We can't all play the way Man City play. We can't all play the way Liverpool play. We are Kidderminster Harriers. We have to identify that first and foremost, then play to that. And I think we've used our strengths to our advantage in the last 10, 11 games and probably hid the weaknesses as best we possibly can. If people can find them weaknesses, then it's up to them. But we know Bromley have got strengths and we know Bromley have got weaknesses, and we've done our homework on them, and we'll try to exploit the weaknesses on Sunday.
I mentioned you've gone to places like Oldham and Solihull and got very good results. I wonder sometimes if it's, obviously the onus is on them as the home team to come out and play against you. Their fans are expecting them to beat you, if you like.
Yeah.
You've still got to go to Bromley, as we mentioned. You've still got to go to Chesterfield, and you've still got to go to Barnet. So maybe that might just work in your favour.
I'm not looking that far ahead, I've got to say it, Trevor. The next game is the most important, as we always know, and you alluded to fixtures down the line, and rightly so, because we've got to play them. But the bottom line is that we get past Bromley with something from the game, and if that's 3 points, that's putting another marker down to the remaining 6, that they know you can't just lie down and eventually will go away. That won't happen. That will never happen as long as I'm manager of Kidderminster Harriers, and it's never happened to me as long as I've been the manager. I'm not the type that lies down. I like to scrap, I like to fight, I like to get amongst it, I like to try and outpick the brains of the opposition's manager, the tactical side of the game. But preparing my team is the most important part, making sure that they are physically capable of winning a game of football, and that's what's improved over the last 6 or 7 weeks, and the confidence levels have gone up a notch. The better players, or shall we call them the artisans, as I've made reference to the artisans many times, the ones who can actually technically win you a game of football can't actually play without the running power of the rest of the team, the engine room. We bring that together and we've got a chance of competing first and foremost with Bromley, and then if we're competing and putting our bodies and minds and soul and spirit, if you like, on the line, that'll be a happy manager regardless of the result, but it gives you more chance of winning.
In terms of your squad, obviously we know Shane Burns out. How are you looking besides that?
The 2 lads obviously that we took on loan from Bromley won't be allowed to play, which it's disappointing because Cole's settled in probably a little bit better than Todd, but again they're at different ends of the field of play. Cole has defenders around him that are like-minded, and he puts his body on the line quite simply. He puts his head in and wins himself man of the match in one of the games because of a clean sheet. But when you've got that collective mentality, it's quite easy to defend when you've got a group of players that are working hard in front of you, and that's what he's singing the praises of his own teammates now. They've done a little bit of a sketch if you like, with a team talk on their former club, if you want to call it that, their present club, parent club, whatever you want to call them. But they offered 1 or 2 little bits of advice which you'd expect them to. I'm not saying they want to beat Bromley because they've been loaned out to us or they hate Bromley. It's just a case of they know more about Bromley than what I do. And they were very complimentary, to be fair, because Bromley deserve compliments. They, as I say, at the right end of the division all season, and good luck to them after Saturday. But I'm fingers crossed. Mac has just said this to me, Neil McDonald's just said that we've got 24 players on the training ground tomorrow, so it's probably going to be my hardest team to pick. One, because of 2 draws on the bounce, so it gives you a little bit of poetic license, if you like, to leave 1 or 2 out that are not creating or not at the business end of the game. And also some good players that were part and parcel of that 4 win on the bounce scenario. Good players coming back to full fitness, as in, Alex Penny and Matty Preston and people like that, So it's going to be my hardest team selection, but hopefully, fingers crossed, we'll pick the right team and the right tactics and the right formation to give Bromley enough headaches.
Final point, I mean, clearly things have picked up since you've come in, you turn things around, you're in with a chance of getting out of trouble at the foot of the table. When you came in originally, it wasn't until the end of the season. Have there been any discussions about possibly extending that? Would you be interested in extending that?
There have been, words have been muted to myself and Neil. Me and Dino have spoken. I was with the chairman yesterday at Cheltenham, and his support is second to none. And I mean that, I've had some damn good chairmen, damn good owners. I think Richard, if I'm allowed to call him Richard, my chairman is doing a great job in terms of support mechanism. He's providing a web of support, if you like, and long may that continue. I said when I first came in, it's a really well-run club, and the people of Kidderminster are fantastic. I've met quite a few now, in all different guises. I've even offered the bowling club a match at the end of the season if we survive. So I'm meeting all sorts of people, and they're fantastic. It really is. I'm enjoying myself. So words have been muted in them directions, but I've got a job to do. As far as I'm concerned, it's survival at all costs, and make sure that if Kidderminster Harriers is a National League team next season, then it'll be an interesting conversation.
Good luck on Saturday. Have a good one.
Thank you.
I just wanted to touch on Sammy Robertson again, because I remember asking you about him when he first picked up his injury after the Oxford game, and you said how much you were looking forward to working with him because of the character he was. Now he's kind of back in and around it, and I guess may get some game time shortly. What are your thoughts on how he is and how is he doing?
It's interesting with Sammy because, having witnessed that game against Altrincham and not Accrington, the first 2 minutes he was down and out, and people were telling me, it's going to be 10 weeks, it's going to be this, that and the other, but I know the fast twitch nature of this player, and the way his mentality will be with regards to physios. He won't probably stomach physiotherapy too easy. He's itching to get out there, and I'm the kind of manager that paints that pathway. I want to clear the treatment room as often as I can, as quickly as I can. And so Sammy, where he's concerned, I was probably a pain in the backside for Tom, the physio, because I was pushing from a player perspective. I can't stand the changing room when it's empty. I love it when it's 24 and I've got 11 to pick and 5 on the bench, and I love it when players are banging me door down saying I should be in a team. Well, play better, train better, and then we'll see where it goes. So all of that is nice to see, and it's in place, but sometimes a little bit of quality just shines through, and Sammy has showed that often enough on the training ground to actually be included on Tuesday night, which is probably 2 weeks ahead of schedule. Probably 2 weeks later from what I predicted. I thought 6 weeks when the physio said 10. We now 8, and he's back in. If he stays fit, fingers crossed, he'll play a good chunk of the games with a bit of luck. There's an opportunity to start him on Saturday. There's also an opportunity of a behind closed doors game on Tuesday night, and he'll be playing for sure, regardless of what he does on Saturday, because he needs games to get that match fitness. So, but there's a few like that, and Knight Percival was thrown in unmercifully at the deep end, if truth be known, against Woking, and sink or swim time, and a guy of his experience, unfortunately, it was a swim, but it sang in the end, and I didn't have anybody on the bench to throw on. Now all of a sudden I've got like for like changes on the bench with enough quality, which we showed on Tuesday night, when J. Emmanuel Thomas came on with Alex Penny. I mean, wow, I'm looking at these two players going, they ain't bad substitutes. It means that the team's been doing okay. So the whole thing is slowly but surely getting pieced together, the jigsaw as it were, but as I say, it counts for nothing unless we're winning games.